Good afternoon, Father Larry Swink, and once again we're going to do a little commentary on this Sunday's readings. This Sunday's readings are, both of them are very challenging and very thought-provoking to say the least, and I'm going to focus on Ephesians chapter 5, which is on the sacramentality of marriage, and it's a challenge for husbands and wives to love one another. And in many ways it's more for the husband if you look at it in context. And you'll notice that St. Paul will say, husbands, love your wives as Christ loves his church. Now, first off, we have to look at the word love. And in Greek, there are 4 words for love, and the word that St. Paul uses is agape. And agape is the highest form of love. It's a selfless love, the kind of love that serves the benefit of another with little or no thought of oneself. It is concerned of the well-being of another, not oneself, such as is thoughtless about oneself. And St. Paul says that husbands are to love their wives as Christ loved his church. So what are the 3 ways that husbands can love their wives? And then that love can be reciprocated, and the woman would submit to that love, because he says, husbands, submit to your husband. And that means submit to this love that he's giving to you. And the first is a passionate love. The text says that a man is to love his wife even as Christ loves his church and handed himself over for her. Now, the Greek word handed over refers to Jesus' crucifixion. It's the same word that's used for Christ's crucifixion. And basically what St. Paul is, husbands, are you willing to give your life for your wife and children? Now, I think most husbands would say, yeah, I'd take a bullet for my wife. But as one woman said to her husband, dear, I know you're willing to die for me. You've told that many times, but while you're waiting to die, could you just fill in some time and help me dry the dishes? In other words, what about the little sacrifices, you know? I mean, remembering to do chores around the house, these types of things are also little deaths to self that will go a long way. How are you willing to die to yourself in little ways? Secondly, the love is purifying. And the text says that a husband is to sanctify her, cleansing her by the bath of water with the word, that he may present to himself the church in splendor. Now, a husband cannot obviously sanctify his wife like God can, but a husband is called to do is to help his wife and children to grow in their relationship with Jesus Christ. So, husbands, are you bringing your wife closer to God by your example, and also your children? Are you purifying your wife? A lot of times, St. Paul will say that the husband is to be the spiritual leader of his house. There's a lot of studies on this, that if a man goes to church, it says that 2/3 or 3/4 of their children will become churchgoers. Now, if the mother only goes to church and the father never does, according to sociological statistics, only 1 out of 50 will practice the faith when the kids leave the house. And I think this is just very telling that a man's leading his family and purifying his family through a spiritual life is very needed and underestimated today in today's society. And finally, a husband is to provide for his wife. And he says that husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no one hates his flesh, but rather nourishes and cherishes it. Husbands need to take care of their wife's needs. But she needs more than food, clothing, and shelter. She can do a lot of that for herself these days. What she needs is your love, understanding, appreciation. Needs you to be a good listener, and so to take care of her emotional needs. And we'll talk more about this weekend, but those are 3 things to think about this weekend.